Okay, everyone, uh, welcome to Dr. Jerry Clum and Dr. Jason Deitch talking about the Rubicon Conference. Hopefully you can all see me and hear me. Give us some comments and some thumbs up and some love if you're there and you can see what we're doing. Good morning, Dr. Clum, and good afternoon to wherever you might be, and perhaps even good evening to some of you, depending on where you're watching. I'm proud to be here with my great friend, Dr. Jerry Clum. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, my friend. Great to be with you, and thank you very much for taking time in your busy schedule to help us with this project.
It's always an honor, and appreciate the opportunity to do it. We were talking a little bit earlier. We have an upcoming Rubicon conference coming up, and I know that this is somewhat of a new idea to many in the profession. The past conference, from what I understand, was an extraordinary, I think, beat expectations success. The feedback I've heard from lots of people all over the place was it was really remarkable, visionary, valuable, and something they wish more people knew about. So maybe sort of catch us up to speed with what exactly is the Rubicon Group and why is this conference so important to attend?
Well, great idea. Let's start from the top. The Rubicon Group is a collaboration of 7 chiropractic educational institutions from around the world. Institutions from Europe, institutions from North America, and institutions from New Zealand, Australasia, to be more specific in terms of the area. The specific institutions involved are the McTimoney College of Chiropractic in the UK, the Barcelona College of Chiropractic, obviously in Barcelona, Spain, the Chiropractic Academy, a unit of Dresden International University in Dresden, Germany, Sherman College of Chiropractic in Spartanburg, South Carolina, Life University in Atlanta, Life Chiropractic College West in Hayward, California, and the New Zealand College of Chiropractic in Auckland, New Zealand. And these 7 institutions have been working together for almost 5 years now. And earlier, less than a year ago, in March of 2016, we went public with our first major conference that was held in London. Had a very good turnout, had a great program, and for our first outing, we were very pleased. Well, frankly, for any kind of an outing, first, second, or 100th, it was a very good program and a very good turnout. It gave us the opportunity to showcase the Rubicon Group, what our directions were, what our hopes were, and so on. The easiest way for people to learn about the Rubicon Group is simply to visit the Rubicon Group website, which is therubicongroup.org. And if you visit that, you can learn about the institutions that are involved, where they're located. You can learn about the vision and the mission and the goals and the strategic plans of the Rubicon Group as a whole. And you can learn about our upcoming events and the activities that we're involved in around the globe. As I said, last March, we met in London. Subsequent to that, we had a conference in Geneva, Switzerland in September. And now we're going to be in Melbourne, Australia, coming up in a month. And one of the reasons for you and I to have this opportunity to chat is this is a very big week in the Rubicon Conference, which is again being held in Melbourne, as we're almost within a day or two away from a month before the conference starts. We're within 3 or 4 days of the end of the early bird registration period for the conference, and it's a good time to remind everybody to save a little bit of money, get in on the early bird registration, and get your registration completed. The registration portal for the conference is the RubiconConference.com. The RubiconConference.com will give you all the information you need, the background on the speakers, the timing, the cost, the location, etc., and everything that you would want to know about the conference, how to get involved, etc., is laid out in that website, and we hope people will take the opportunity to visit it. And again, that's the RubiconConference.com. More importantly than the details of the conference, which obviously are critical to anybody who's going to attend, is the content and the orientation of the conference. Many of our colleagues around the world don't realize that the profession in Australia has been beaten up pretty badly over the last few years. What started out in the UK with essentially an aggressive campaign to fine-tooth comb the websites of chiropractors and then file actions against them in the UK and so on, that led to hundreds of complaints against chiropractors. for very trivial things. Some problems that were obvious and needed to be corrected, but the vast majority were technical, minuscule kind of problems. Well, that same strategy by a group called the Friends of Science has been visited on the profession in Australia. And this has been going on for a number of years. And to be honest with you, the profession's been beaten up and inappropriately, unnecessarily, and quite vindictively, frankly, from where I sit. So one of our reasons to hold this conference is to try and bring the resources, the emphases, and the capacities of the Rubicon Group to the knowledge and the awareness of the chiropractor in Australia. We have no messianic visions here. We don't look from other parts of the world to Australia and say, we can fix your problem. That's crazy talk. What we do have is experiences. What we do have is information. What we do have is resources. And we'd like to make those available to our colleagues in Australia in this process of dealing with these challenges that are before them. And one of the ways that we can do that is to showcase all of those things in a conference that we have scheduled for April 8th and 9th in Melbourne, Australia. So, as I said, we're just about a month away. The conference today being early March, the conference starting April 8, 9, and then the early bird registration ends on March 11th at 11 p.m. Melbourne time. So again, a few days away from that. So it's an important window in the conference planning and presentation, and we want to get the news of the conference out to our colleagues as much as possible.
Flights are going to be cheaper now, and getting all your travel arrangements all set is going to be a good idea. Let me I guess ask you. This is not just theory. You held this previous conference in Europe. There was some rumblings in Europe, and from what I understand, the impact that getting together as a conference, as an official group, as a network of educational institutions. Not some entrepreneurial spirits or something else, but in fact, the educational infrastructure has been significant, not just theoretical, not just coming in to try to fix everything, but in fact, giving individual practitioners the support, the institutional support that's really necessary probably to make a difference at the highest levels of policy and politics and so on. Is it appropriate to share any of the experience you had previously and why you believe that might have a similar positive effect in Australia?
Well, again, it comes down to resources and it comes down to perspectives. Over the years, what I refer to as the conservative side of the aisle in chiropractic, the spine-oriented, adjustment-oriented approach to chiropractic that values the concept of the subluxation, understands the impact that entity has upon life and health and well-being, and seeks to develop better and better skills in terms of how to correct the subluxation, seeks to develop better and stronger and deeper understanding of the complex itself and its implications. That side of the discussion has rather been underrepresented. And about 5 years ago, as I said, this group of institutions came together and said it was time to put our stake in the ground, that we would articulate our interest, our concerns, and then begin to advance that agenda. We're not mad at anybody. We're not fighting with anybody. We're not hostile toward anybody. These are the things that are important to us: a neurologically oriented and centered perspective on subluxation, a consideration that chiropractic is practiced without the use of drugs and surgery, a consideration of the inborn innate ability of the body to heal, and the recognition of the body as a self-healing, self-regulating, self-repairing entity that needs cooperation more than it needs interference, and ultimately the value of a healthy lifestyle and how that impacts the efficiency of the organism. Very simply, that's what we're about as an organization. We're about advancing those ideas in clinical practice, in research, in education, and in the marketplace. So, as you said, we did have a conference in London. It did lead to some discussions that have produced a statement of understanding with our colleagues representing the European Chiropractors Union that is available and it can be found on our website. It can be found on the British Chiropractic Association website and so on. And different countries have had the opportunity to publish that as they see fit throughout Europe. But the agreement was essentially between the Rubicon Group and the European Chiropractors Union. And that's a first step. This is really one of the most important opportunities where we've had a chance to chat about the things that we think divide us and realize that, in fact, there aren't that many. And look for common ground that we can work on together and we can agree upon and then move forward on that. So, yes, has the European Union as a group stood up and said, we're changing our position on chiropractic because of the group, this activity group? No, that's again, silly talk. But what we have had is an opportunity to engage our colleagues, to engage in discussion, to engage in dialogue, and to move to levels of common understanding and appreciation for the positions of each of the organizations. That's a great thing. That doesn't happen very often in our circle. Now, in relationship to the circumstance in Australia, again, we're not coming in. We don't have a silver bullet. We don't have anything that we can come in and fix Australia's problem relative to the circumstances that are going on. But what we do have is experiences from around the world. If you look at the chiropractic circumstance in the U.S., back in the Wilkes days, we went through literally our trials. If we look at Canada, they went through their challenges with the Lana Day Lewis inquest in Ontario and the implications of that over an extended period of time. And we look at the UK and in Europe, they've gone through these challenges that I made reference to earlier. And then ultimately, another iteration of this is manifesting in Australia. So we want our colleagues in Australia to know they're not alone, number one. We've been attacked for a long, long time, and this is the new version and the new iteration of it. And we want to bring resources to them. We want to bring information to them to help them deal with that in their way, in their language, through their strategies and their applications, not ours, theirs. And if anything we can say would be helpful to them, great. We hope they put it to use. If not, thank you for your time. We'll move on. But we think we can be very helpful in this regard. So that's another part of what we're about relative to this discussion for the Rubicon Group and the Rubicon Conference coming up.
Right on. If you're watching live and you have questions, please feel free. We'll take them live. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to have access to what I believe to be one of our profession's most important and influential people. Jerry, I guess let's talk, where the rubber meets the road. Why does a practicing chiropractor take time from their practice, from their family? If they're obviously local in Australia, that's relatively easy. But if they're in the sort of Eurasia, Pacific area, why do they take time out of their lives to come and be part of this conference? What's in it for them?
Well, they're going to find an assembly of speakers and faculty that, frankly, very rarely will you see assembled in chiropractic. And certainly, it's been a long time since a group of this breadth has been assembled in Australia. There are many fine teachers and there are many fine lecturers in Australia and in the region, but we'll be bringing the presidents or the deans of 7 chiropractic institutions from around the world, representing 5 countries from 3 continents, to Australia for this event. We'll also be bringing, in my opinion, the person I believe and the group that I believe to lead the leading researchers on the circumstance and the situation of the subluxation and the neurological implications of the subluxation and the adjustment in the persons of Dr. Heidi Havik and her research team from the New Zealand College of Chiropractic. We're also bringing a gentleman well known to the chiropractic profession and far more broadly around the world with literally a global following, Dr. Bruce Lipton, who will be discussing the epigenetics of health and healing, and also talking about the neurological and the genetic implications of stress and how those play out in a patient, a practice, a community, in a society, and obviously in the planet as a whole. So this is really quite a profound combination of people. As I said before, we'll be able to bring experiences from around the world, and we're going to have a briefing from the chiropractic profession in Europe, talking about the challenges, the developments that have happened in Europe. We'll have a similar briefing from North America. And then really one of the more exciting parts of this whole process is we'll have an opportunity to highlight the development of a new chiropractic program, the Australian College of Chiropractic in Adelaide, South Australia, that is being developed by a group of chiropractors, obviously from South Australia. And as they bring that program forward, we want the profession in Australia to know that they're not alone, that the 7-member institutions of the Rubicon Group are at their side and at their aid to help them as this institution develops, and hopefully save them a great deal of time, a great deal of money, and a great deal of worry and angst, because they have people that have dealt with the systems that they're dealing with, and people that have learned how to work within those systems effectively and efficiently, and bringing all of that capacity to the Australian College of Chiropractic. That opportunity to highlight that activity is a very exciting one for us, because that's key to our role as the Rubicon Group as well.
Can you sort of lay out the vision of the Rubicon Group in terms of I know no guarantees or anything like that, but I mean, I just want to the best way possible communicate to those watching the real value. I know we have a tendency to believe that we can't make a difference, or showing up doesn't really matter. Are there examples in other professions or in our history where showing up actually matters, that one person can make a difference, that engagement has an impact? I want to make sure that you have not only as good or as successful as a conference as you had in Europe, but even more successful, so that you can keep on building some momentum. What do people really need to know or see as hope and possibility for participating in this?
Yeah, thank you. As trite as it sounds, and as corny as it sounds, nothing has ever happened in our societies, nothing has ever happened in our world that wasn't the product of an individual stepping forward. Whether it was great inventions, whether it was great political moves, whether it was great conflict, they all surround an individual, and they're all led by an individual. One of the things that the profession in Australia has benefited from over the years has been a level of acceptance by the society, by the educational infrastructure in the country, that in the last couple of years has come into question as a result of these kinds of attacks that I talked about. So one of the things that the profession in Australia needs to understand is that there was a time when the activity of the individual was less critical to the future of the profession. We have now entered a different time, and the activity of the individual in Australia in particular, and the need for persons to step up in leadership in their local community, in their state community, on a national level, is more needed today than perhaps at any time since the registration and recognition of chiropractic as a discipline in the country of Australia. So that perspective of bringing the need for responsible engagement of the structures and the framework of the profession in Australia by more practitioners is critical to the development and the continued growth and development of the profession in Australia. People need to understand the rules. They need to understand how to play by the rules. They need to understand the opportunities for engagement. I can tell you those things about chiropractic in the United States. I don't know them intimately about chiropractic in Australia, but our colleagues in Australia do. And what I can and we hope to do through the Rubicon Conference is to encourage our colleagues to logically, rationally, and constructively engage all of that infrastructure of the profession in a leadership role to help bring forward a greater level of stability and get back to a window of growth and progress for the profession that has been absent these past couple of years because of these attacks.
What do you say to those? I put myself. I've been a practicing chiropractor for many years, and I know that there's a sense of, after a period of time of getting, sort of discriminated against, beaten up against, attacked in a variety of different ways. You almost sort of develop a hopelessness type of a consciousness. Can you speak to any of the feedback you got from attendees who attended your previous conference in terms of, afterwards, and maybe for days, weeks, months afterwards, what some of their takeaways were? What did they say? Why were they glad they went? What shift perhaps took place in their lives, in their practice, in their attitude, in their income, as a result or byproduct? If I'm assuming you've been in touch with people that have attended, I know I have. Many of the presenters were beyond grateful to be able to present on such an important stage. But can you speak to sort of the takeaway from some of the attendees who may have, lost hope, or may go, there's nothing I can do, or there's no hope that I can really offer here. I've just got to keep my head again above water and keep my neck low enough that it doesn't get my head doesn't get chopped off, so to speak, if you know what I mean.
Sure. Well, I think the biggest takeaway for persons who have participated with us in the past is the realization that they're not alone. Yeah. The realization for the chiropractor in Australia that, yes, they have gone through a period of trauma and trial and tribulation in their country, but they're not alone. The Americans have gone through it. The Canadians have gone through it. The Europeans have gone through it. The British have gone through it. The realization that there are fellow travelers, number one, who have endured this strain and come out better for it, is huge. The second consideration is the realization that there is a global community of people interested in advancing the same concepts and same goals and same aspirations that you feel as you stand over that adjusting table and get ready to adjust that child or that mom or that dad as they need help in their life. That realization of community is tremendously powerful. And then the provision of resources, information, data to the individual practitioner to better help them frame their arguments, to help them better frame their discussions as they try and move forward in the profession is another very important factor. The World Health Organization, in an article I read some time back, said fundamentally, when everything is all said and done, there's two things that are determinants of health above all else. And those two things are the presence of community and the absence of abject poverty. That's what we're about as well. We want to give the chiropractor in Australia an awareness that there is global community resonating with the things that they feel are important, the hopes, the dreams, and the aspirations that they had as a young chiropractor in the first days of their career are alive and well in the hearts and minds of people around the planet. And that we stand in solidarity with them and helping them bring forward a response to this moment from within them. And that's a very important point for us. So as we look at what our goals and our hopes are, is we'd like to remind the chiropractor in Australia, you're not alone. There's lots of resources. We've got good information. We've got developing technologies and emerging technologies and information that will shock you in terms of their implications and their significance. And it's time that we start to understand them, share them, celebrate them, and grow them around the world.
I love it. I appreciate it. If anybody has questions, if you're watching live, please ask them in the comments section. We'll take them while we're live. We'll be closing up in just a few minutes. Dr. Clum, let me, ask you to perhaps address one other thing I can imagine some chiropractors may be considering. And that is obviously your history is as of the president of Life West. And there is a spectrum, obviously, of different, perhaps philosophical perspectives. Could you speak to the inclusive nature of this group and how it really is intended not necessarily to represent one particular viewpoint or agenda, but in fact, I think as you've done an incredible job, of course, explaining how together as a community, as a group, there's far more we agree on than disagree on, and that's really the emphasis of what this is all about. For those that may be saying, well, I didn't go to that school, or I practice differently, or my philosophy may not be like yours, therefore, I'll stick to my own group. Why is it important for people, chiropractors of all kinds, to be coming together to support this?
Well, if you think about this conversation that we've just had, I haven't talked about, other than to name the member institutions of the Rubicon Group, I haven't talked anything about other institutions, not dismissing, not insulting, or anything of the nature of any other institution. We're not, as I said before, we're not mad at anybody. We're not hostile with anybody. We have a series of 4 key areas that we feel are important to have advanced, strengthened research, and understood more deeply for the best interest of the future of the profession and the future of the patient we serve. That's what this group is about. Your technique, your clinical approach, your strategy in your office. We don't have any room for discussion about that. That's not part of our agenda. Our agenda is about advancing 4 simple ideas that have profound effect and profound implications for the profession. So we're willing to sit down with people of all stripe and all variation and all considerations. We have a few make it or break it considerations. For example, we see the practice of chiropractic without the use of drugs and surgery. If you're a pro-drug person, we're probably not going to find a lot of room to chat about things. But if you're not, there's lots of room. Our concept about the subluxation is very simple. It is a defendable, definable entity that has profound negative impacts upon the human organism, and the correction of it improves health and life and well-being. And there's a lot there. There's a lot that needs to be documented about that. There's a lot that needs to be evidenced in different fashions about that, and the implications of it need to be brought forward. We're opening the argument, or excuse me, we're opening the discussion that there is room, potential, and possibility to evaluate all of those things, to quantify all of those things, and to bring evidence forward that supports the very perspectives we've talked about since 1895. That's what we're about. So your technique, your institution, your politics, whatever the case might be, it doesn't enter our discussion. We've got a few make it or break it's. Other than that, we've got an open tent and a broad perspective that looks at these 4 areas. And if we can have discussion and commonality on these, there's room for us to talk, and that's what we want to do.
All right, we'll wrap it up in just a few moments. Let me just kind of close again. I'm hoping that if you're watching this, I'm going to ask you to do one of several things. Number one, perhaps leave a comment, love, share it with others that you know should be watching this conversation, who would be appropriate to, if they live in Australia or anywhere close, or are looking for a great time to go on vacation to attend the Rubicon conference. I guess, Jerry, let me ask, just to be straight about it all, and I don't mean that the way some people may imply it, but just to be bottom line about it all, what happens if we don't? I mean, you had mentioned this is an important time to be engaged, that not all times are like that, but there has been such a significant, I don't know how else to say it, but attack on the Australian chiropractors and the impact perhaps in the region, New Zealand and so on, that there is a consequence for not getting involved, for not participating. There is risk now that's different than perhaps in years or decades or generations past. What's the risk of not getting involved? What are the possibilities here for those that just want to stay too busy or have whatever reasons they have to not be there and not get involved?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you one very scary, very succinct answer. In recent days, the Friends of Science and Medicine in Australia have been advocating to policymakers and to legislators that the ability for chiropractors to provide care to children and to pregnant women should be removed. Now, if that in and of itself doesn't cause you to be livid, about the challenge that's before the profession in Australia, I can't think of another thing that would stimulate you.
Well, there you have it, everyone. I don't know how else to say it either, and that should hopefully be motivation enough to make sure you stand up for your rights to practice. And I'll say even more importantly, that you stand up for the rights of your community to receive care. That's the issue here. You know, we wish we lived in a profession that, you know, everybody else could just throw a bunch of money in and other people could handle it, so we can just, you know, not have to participate, not have to get involved. But that's not the case. It's essential to have a voice, to get together as a group, and to not just all splinter away and hope that the powers that be handle it and that everything's going to work out okay. It will work out okay in most cases, most of the times, the more that we can convene, connect, and communicate. So I hope, Jerry, I'll give you some final comments and closing invitation, everybody, but I hope you've gotten some insight. I hope this inspires you to take the time, click the link. It's available down below. For a very limited time from now, you can register at the best savings possible. Don't wait till the last minute. If you've ever put together, held, or hosted a conference or a party of any kind, the earlier people know that you're going to get there, the better it is for everybody. So make the decision. Don't procrastinate. Make it happen. Invite your friends and colleagues and others, and let's really support our profession. Let's really make sure that we know in decades to come that we can look back and say, we were a part of making sure that we protected our community's rights to receive the care that they deserve and need, starting from birth and onward. Jerry, final closing comments and invitations, please.
Well, thank you, Jason. And I'll just remind everybody, the conference is April 8 and 9, Saturday and Sunday, in Melbourne, Australia. The location, the venue for the conference is an elegant facility in the central business district of Melbourne, on the 6th floor of the Meyer Melbourne facilities. It's a facility called Mural Hall, and it's the location of 8 very significant murals in the depicting the history of Australia. It's a national treasure of Australia, and it's an elegant facility that represents the image that we want to provide to the chiropractor. A perfect forum for the quality of the content that we're going to be offering, and a statement about how we see the future and how positive and strong we think the future is. So join us in Melbourne, April 8 and 9, Mural Hall, and the website again is www.therubiconconference.com. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much.
Very well. On behalf of Dr. Gerard Clum and myself, Dr. Jason Deitch, thank you for watching. Please get engaged, comment, like, share, and be there. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, everyone.